Hello everybody and welcome back then to the Force India career mode on F1 2017. And we are on to Malaysia, a very wet looking Malaysia, not an unusual sight round here. And a race that will really tell us what position our car is in. Of course, we've had 3 podiums in a row, the last 3 races, including our first ever win in Monza. I somehow managed to forget that last time out. But this track is a lot more aero dependent, and of course that is where our car is weak. That's what we were expecting in Singapore, and to be honest we were a little bit off the pace in Singapore, but to be fair, the strategy really sort of patched those holes and meant that we still managed to get onto the podium when really the pace of the car didn't deserve it. But Malaysia is not a track you can hustle. If you haven't got the aerodynamic grip, it's going to be difficult. And it's made even more difficult by the fact we're going to be hit by a huge amount of grid penalties. Because I've decided, as it's probably going to be a weak weekend anyway, that we're going to take an extra engine unit and an extra turbocharger, take the penalties, and then we should be okay, hopefully, with the engine components until the end of the season. But as we move on to qualifying then, it's still pretty wet out there. And we managed to get through Q1 at P5. A few tenths ahead of Perez in 7th. So the pace in the car looking okay, but of course difficult to read when it's this wet. And again, sort of covers over some of the holes of where our car might be lacking, as you can generally find lap time that's not there in the wet in comparison to the dry. So as we move on to Q2 now then, I think this is our second run in Q2. Our first one was a little bit underwhelming. And you can see we're a long way up, nearly 2 seconds up on our previous lap time. We nearly lose it out of the final corner, but just managed to hustle it over the line to easily get through into Q3. And as always, it's still very wet for Q3, and I'm going to let you sit back, relax, and enjoy the sights and the sounds of our fastest lap from qualifying. Right, we come out of the final corner then, up to the line, and it's not quite as quick as we've done from the rest of qualifying. It's going to be good enough for P7, just ahead of our teammate Perez. We did do a 50-0 something, I think it was about 54 or 55 in Q2, but to be fair, it doesn't really matter, because obviously we're going to be taking that big grid penalty from the changed engine components. So really qualifying, I just wanted to do it just to see where the pace of the car was and just see where we were when it was wet. But it really didn't matter because obviously we're going to be starting at the back of the field anyway. But hopefully we can have a good race from there and we can have a good strategy. There was a little bit of rain forecast for the beginning of the race. But just before we go to race day then, we've from qualifying just got enough points to be able to do our next upgrade on the car. We're going to continue down the aero path. And we're going to go with streamlined suspension arms. I think our engine is easily where it needs to be. Chassis, I don't know, will feel as much as these aero changes, and that's where we're really weak. So hopefully that'll be on the car for Japan and continue pushing it forward towards those front three. But let's get on to race day.
It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today. Although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
So as we look through the grid then, we can see that we've been demoted to the rear of the field. A few other penalties around us, but for whatever reason we are chosen to be last of those that are given the penalties. I never quite understand the Formula 1 penalty system. I don't think anyone does. So I expected to be at the back. That's where we are. I presume it's because our penalties were applied first. But as you can see then, there's a bit of rain about. And we're starting on the intermediate tyres for round 15 in Malaysia here then. And eventually we get off the line. Probably our worst start of the year when we needed the best one possible. And the rest of the grid literally disappears on the long run down to turn 1. Fortunately, it's not too wet, so there's not too much spray to negotiate, and we take a look down the inside of Sainz, Ericsson and Verline into turn 1. Verline still, it's Ericsson even, just about holding on our inside there. We're going to try and take the wide line, see if we can get round either Stroll or Palmer. And it doesn't really work out for us. That wide line that's supposed to be so much quicker in the wet wasn't quicker on that occasion. Maybe a little bit timid, just trying to make sure we don't make any mistakes. But we do finally get Ericsson and Stroll into turn 4 then, and make that move nice and comfortably, and up to P16. Next up, the Crash Master 5000 himself, Jolyon Palmer, living vicariously through this game unlike his very dead Formula 1 career. But we're going to just stick it down the inside. Jolyon, trust him to just do his thing and get out of the way, which he does, and we muscle our way through into 15th. And now we've got the stiffer competition then. We've got the Hasses, we've got the Williams of Massa up there, Van Dorn, both McLarens still ahead of us. And as we move on to lap 2 now then, we're going to try and take a look down the inside of everybody's channel favourite, Kevin Magnussen. I'm sorry, but we just have to do it in this. We can't, well, we could race as Kevin Magnussen, but it's a bit late for that. And we make the move nice and comfortably through to them. And next up is Stoffel Van Dorn in the McLaren. Much better straight line speed as you would expect with this Mercedes engine compared to the Honda Power Pack, and we just make that move nice and easy into the final corner up to 13th. Next up, Torpedo, also living vicariously in this game, is Daniel Kvyat, and it's going to take a bit longer. Car not feeling as quick as it normally does, and this is what I expected here at Malaysia. It's a lot more aero dependent, and we just seem to struggle all the way through this race, as we now try and take a look up the inside of Kvyat and get that move done. But we can see points. It's taking a bit longer than normal to get through the pack, but I think the weather conditions are contributing to that a little bit as well. Very slippy out there, and we don't want to make any stupid mistakes. It's a long old race, and there's some dry weather coming, but Massa does us a favour and just nicely gets out of the way there as he locks up into turn 4. And we're now up into 11th and on the back of Romain Grosjean. And we can see the points, so we just need to keep everything cool, calm and collected, make our way past these last couple of cars, and then we're sort of back to where we should be in this car. But unfortunately, I really wasn't concentrating. And we run horribly wide as we lock up and avoid a massive accident. Basically, I was trying to change the tyre compounds to decide which tyre we wanted to put on in the next couple of laps, because the track is drying rapidly here, and the corner came up a bit quicker than I was expecting. And to be honest, we're very lucky to still be in this race. You'll see we give Van Dorn a little love tap on the way through and somehow avoid any damage on either car, such as the damage model on this game from side impacts, because I'm pretty sure that would have been game over for both of us. But as we move on to lap 5 now then, we've now got to do it all over again as we make our way back past Stoffel Van Dorn once again. And now we have to try and take a look at the torpedo, Danny Kvyat. We line him up down the long pit straight. Once again, we've got all these cars we're racing, we've got a superior engine to, so it's pretty easy to get into the slipstream and get the job done down into turn 1. You can see a little bit of front wing flying past there, and Kvyat just taps us on the way through, and we're really not having any luck with this midfield. We've had a pretty trouble-free season with the AI compared to F1 2016, but this race, to be fair, the second incident was my fault, but Kvyat is just going to go straight into the back of us there, lose a little bit of his front wing, and then we just maybe closed the door a little bit early, didn't realise how close he was. But you can see here, Kvyat, just a proper AI error as he runs into the back of us. And to be fair, as I said, we chopped across the front of him, and I was stupidly expecting the AI to be able to be self-aware and back out of that move, but no. As we go to this glorious Cameron helicopter shot then, down into turn 1, as we take a look on the outside of Romain Grosjean a couple of laps later. And this is a great shot, this. I wish there was an option to stay in this mode all the time, because I'd love to add some more of these shots, but it seems to be only Malaysia and a couple of other tracks you actually get those shots, and it seems to be at random. But we're now going to go past Stoffel van Dorn, which for what must be the third time in this race, we're really not having a good time trying to get past this midfield, but we do finally get that move done then. And then it's just Danny Kvyat, who we've just been told over the radio has got a problem with his car, and sure enough, it's obviously a problem with the brakes as he just runs clean off the road, as Sergio Perez did in 2012 when he was chasing down Fernando Alonso. But it's going to be a mad dash to the pits as the track is finally ready for slicks, and we're going to come in and put on the soft tyre. Hopefully we're not going to have any AI problems, because when the pit lane is this busy you can very often get held for no reason. But thankfully nothing like that happens, and we exit just behind Felipe Massa where we were before, maybe a little bit closer, so good work from the Force India pit crew. And we're back out onto the track, and we're only on lap 8. This really was one of the funnest and craziest races I've had in a long time, and I think it's because we were back here fighting with the midfield. There's such a deficit between us and the Red Bulls, and an even bigger deficit between us and the Ferraris and the Mercedes, that unless we get the strategy right like we did, or do something very different on the strategy as we have done the last couple of races, we're normally in that no man's land between the midfield and the front guys. But here, being back in the midfield because of our penalties, I actually found it a lot tougher getting through the midfield than I thought, and we had some great little battles as we get past Felipe Massa then, for I think the second time in this race. We're going to be seeing the same guys again and again during this race, I can assure you. But as we're on to lap 9 then, and the track's still a bit damp, we're still trying to have to tiptoe around, we're still probably 5 or 6 seconds off the times we will be doing in a few laps time. And we try and make a move on Grosjean, and he tries to make a move on Hulkenberg, so we have to sort of back out of it to avoid running into the back of the Haas car. But Alonso and Hulkenberg holding up the train a little bit there as they try and make a move on each other, and we're able to go clean round the outside of the pair of them. And think about having a little look on Fernando Alonso into turn 1, but as we just make a tiny bit of contact, we have to hold station on Alonso for now. Alonso is on super soft tyre, so it's going to be pretty difficult, I would imagine, to stay with him, and that is what proves the case. We just take a look at the external shots now. As you can see, we try and make a move on Grosjean at the exact same time he decides to go to the inside, and that's sometimes when you can have the sort of airplane type crashes you see in Formula 1, but fortunately we were able to avoid it in that case, and we're able to make a move down the outside of Hulkenberg as Grosjean makes a move down the inside of him. Classic free wide at Malaysia, something we've seen quite a lot in recent years with the midfield. And we're now going to go on to lap 12 then. And this old bug rears its head. So virtual safety car is out, you can see the marker is up. We try and slow down to our delta, and Grosjean just decides to overtake us, which of course is very illegal. So once again, I'm pretty sure it was Grosjean last time that it happened with as well. We just test it out and see if we can go back ahead of him, and we can't. So it seems to me that as soon as the VSC comes out, you need to keep on it until for a few seconds afterwards to avoid someone just clean overtaking you like that. But the VSC ends and we're able to get another run on Grosjean to regain that position. But as we were going to find out over the next about 10 laps, Grosjean was not someone we can just brush aside today. We get past him easily enough into turn 1 and 2 and get on our way. But very quickly Grosjean is going to attack us again a couple of laps later as we struggle to shake the French driver. And he's going to take a little look into the final corner. DRS active enough to get him close enough. But we take a wider line and get a better run onto the straight. But once again with the double DRS, Grosjean is able to have another run down to turn 1 as we return to this stunning helicopter camera. Again, please Cobos, just add a mode that allows me to watch the whole race like this, because it's great. You're not constricted by only being able to fly a helicopter at a certain time. This is a game. I'm sure they could set that up for the entire race. But anyway, you see there some great battling once again with Grosjean, and he's able to just about keep the move done by the time we get to turn 4, and we have to back out of it as we don't want to lose a position to Massa behind. And that's really how it stays for the next couple of laps. You're going to see here Grosjean is going to peel off into the pit lane. And to be fair, our tyres are looking okay at this point. At this stage, Grosjean is going to have to go onto the soft tyres to get to the end from here. But we decided to try and stretch it out a couple more laps, and that will mean that we can put the super softs on for the final stint and hopefully have the pace advantage over both Massa, Grosjean and Alonso, who stopped a lot earlier to go on to the medium tyres. So we would have lost time from them being on fresh rubber as we really pushed that pit lane, pit entry to its limit. But we're now going to put on the super soft tyres. We hope that we can get out ahead of Massa here, and then we're going to have to try and chase down Grosjean and Alonso in the final stint of the race. But as we exit the pit lane on lap 21 then, that is Felipe Massa, you can see on the mini-map. And one sort of hesitation with a wheel nut or missing a clutch bite point out of the pits would have been the difference between us being behind or ahead of Massa. As it is, it's our lucky day, everything went sweetly and we're back out ahead of the veteran Brazilian. And we now go on to lap 23 as we finally chased down Alonso and Grosjean. Now, Grosjean has literally just got past Alonso being on the medium tyres. So this should be a fairly simple move, but we want to get it done as soon as possible so that we don't allow Grosjean to get too far ahead, because that is the maximum position we can achieve this race as we go down the inside of Alonso into turn 1, easy as you like. And as I say, we want to make the most of these super softs because they're going to wear a lot quicker than the soft tyres on Grosjean's car. There's still 5 laps to go in the Grand Prix, so we immediately want to get a hurry on and try and take a little look down the inside of Roman. Once again, not able to make the move stick, but we try to have a go through this long turn 5, and we just hang back a little bit, do the switchback to get a better exit out of turn 6. But Grosjean much better onto the brakes into 7. Really enjoying these fights with Grosjean. He was a tricky customer, and it doesn't really come across obviously from just watching the footage, but really was pushing hard at this point. Probably harder than I've pushed for a good few races, and we've of course been on the podium for the last few. So whether that's a sign that the car is, struggling at these tracks and we've still got some work to do, most likely. But we come from a long way back now, later in the laps, surprising ourselves and Grosjean, and somehow managing to get it stopped to go down the inside of the Haas driver. And as you take a look at it from the external, it was a sort of Ricardo bonsai move down the inside, coming from a long way back, and you're just hoping at that point you don't snatch a break and you don't run into the side of your competitor. But we managed to get the move done, and that's going to be it for the race then. We maintain around about a 1.5-2 second gap over Grosjean for the remainder of the race. As I say, he never really went away. We didn't have the pace to lose him, and we certainly couldn't do anything about the guys ahead who were almost half a minute down the road. But to be fair, it's a good race. You know, we've come right from the back of the field. We overtook and then went behind again, sort of fought the same 4 or 5 cars for the first 10 laps of the race as Vettel lifts the trophy to finally take a win after a long absence from the top step, to reignite his championship challenge. But all in all, that's the kind of racing I want to be having. The last few races, of course, have been interesting up the front, but before that it was a long string of sort of being in no man's land and actually being able to fight wheel to wheel with multiple cars for almost the entire Grand Prix was a lot of fun and really the height of what this game can be. And you can see there our teammate Sergio Perez coming home in 6th, showing that the car did have good pace, and I think it was, you know, it was because we were stuck in traffic for so long. We were fighting so hard with the midfield that by the time we got through it, obviously the front sort of 6 or 7 cars had got a long way down the road, and it was damage limitation. You know, this is going to give us new engine components and should mean that we don't have to take a penalty for the rest of the season. As you can see in the Drivers' Championship then, we're still ahead of the 2 Red Bull drivers. Perez still around about 40 points off this sort of 3 guy group that are battling for 5th place in the championship. Lewis Hamilton regains the lead of the championship, but there's still only 2 points between him and Raikkonen, and that is one that's going to go right down to the wire, I'm sure. But hopefully we can get back to form in the next couple of races and be fighting up with the Red Bulls again, because we're still only, around about 30 points off them, and with 6 races still to go, there's plenty of points to play for. And with the aero upgrade we've got coming in Japan, hopefully we can continue to close that gap and race them a bit better. Japan, to be fair, we're probably still going to struggle. It's a very aero-dependent track at Suzuka, so I don't hold out any hopes of a miraculous change, but let's be honest, it doesn't really matter, does it? If we have more races like that, then hopefully all the better to your entertainment, because I thoroughly enjoyed that, and the battle, especially with Grosjean at the end, I was having to try so hard to stay ahead of him and get ahead in the first place. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As I say, this series should hopefully be back to a weekly series now. Probably try to keep it on Sundays. I don't like to stick to a schedule, but Sundays is generally the easiest day to record these, because as I mentioned a lot last year, the thing with these is you either do them all the time or you have to spread them out, because from start to finish, from playing to getting it uploaded, is around about a 5-6 hour process, because they're a long ass race for a very short video. But I hope you guys are still enjoying these. If you are, don't forget that like button. If you're new to the channel, you can hit that subscribe button as well, and don't forget to go and check out my new gaming channel that is will be on the homepage. That's just sort of a more wide variety of games as opposed to just the racing channel that this now is. And as always, thank you everybody for watching, and I'm going to see you again very soon.